Hello everyone, I guess Jen, hopefully you're having a wonderful day. We are back again with another PWCC/Fanatics weekly review where I go through the top 100 soccer items auctioned off this week. As always, if you enjoy these weekly reviews, make sure to leave a like, helps me, helps the channel, would appreciate it greatly. But with that said, let's go ahead and hop on over there. Getting started this week at around $120, about the average that we see here. To start, we have a Kai Havertz orange that went for $120. I took a peek at this just on my own out of curiosity, and this was one of the lowest sales, which at least to me was surprising because I thought Kai Havertz, doing pretty well, at least compared to some of the Chelsea days where he was, on and off, but seemingly not a terrible price, but still somewhat respectable, I guess, for a player that isn't all that talked about. But 2017 Galactic Neymar, PSA 9. This went for 117 as well, and, I like the Galactics. I've talked about that before. I actually have one of these, so I'm relatively in touch with them. The last two sold for 60 and 80, so this one's a pretty decent price, I would say. Decently graded, pop 1 of 3, just one higher, but they aren't incredibly hard. They're just not a lot of them. 2023 Topps Chrome Sapphire Jude out of 75 goes for 126. Above that, a 2023 out of 125 PSA 9 Messi Aquafractor goes for 126. I felt like that was, a decent price. Again, I'm not too in touch with the Inter Miami Messi stuff. Like, I know what the autos do, but I don't know what the lower, X-Fractor Aquas are doing. So 126, I figured at first that this was a PSA 10 just when I saw the price, but for a 9, I feel like that's pretty decent because that implies a 10 would be like, 300, 400. And I mean, the autos are only like 1,000, I think. So at least for some of the higher numbers. But 2022 Camavinga sticker auto for 126. Then we have a Thiago Silva auto for 126 as well. I like that auto. It's not one that was in my memory bank, but I'll add it. Then we have a 2022 Instant Messi, which is interesting because there's going to be another one later. So I'm not sure why this one does 132. This price actually makes sense if the other one doesn't. So, maybe one got chilled. Maybe one just caught someone off guard. I don't know. 77 Bergman Rummenigge for 132 and a PSA 4. I do believe that his rookie is 76, but the early stuff for him is fairly hard to find. This is a pop 1 of 1, just one higher for 132. Doesn't feel like a terrible price considering I see some early Rummenigge stuff go for pretty decent prices generally. So 132 doesn't feel crazy. A Renaissance 2021 Topps Merlin Chrome Mbappe, PSA 10. Want to take a peek at this just because interested. I do like the look of Renaissance compared to a lot of other modern ones where I'm a little skeptical. I like stained glass type designs, but I took a peek and, this one wasn't very reassuring in terms of an outsider just maybe wanting to enter. Not really, but just considering it. For some reason, this one actually doesn't appear over there. I'm not sure why, but this goes for 138, and that's the lowest sale basically ever, I think. If we go all-time pricing, the highest is 463. The lowest is, there it is, 138. And to me, that's just, that's what I'm concerned with modern. A lot of the times is like, to me, Renaissance would seem like something that people are collecting and would be desirable. Mbappe seems like a desirable player. PSA 10, it's got everything going for it, yet they've never really gone up in price. And I think that speaks to the question of, is some of this stuff collectible? And I guess we'll find out, but, seemingly no stopping there in terms of pricing. 95 Votball R9, PSA 6 goes for 138. Then we have a PSA 4 Pele Calciatore from 67. A 45 Telmo Zara that I've never seen before goes for 138 there. Didn't take a peek at Toto myself, but 138 feels like a pretty good price. I know his earlier 40 stuff, at least from what I've seen, maxes out at the 1 to 300 range. I think there's another good sale later we'll see for him. 2017 Mbappe, PSA 10 goes for 144. This Mirattuti Pele sort of struck me as a lower price. We see these from time to time, but usually not this low, so I took a peek. When we look here, yeah, this one goes for 144. Last PSA 2 on fixed price did nearly 700. Before that, an authentic went for 250. You have a PSA 2 down here for 400. So it's not, I guess, a ridiculously low price, but it is pretty low considering all the comps that we're seeing here. I mean, back in the day, again, a PSA 3 in 2022 for 570. Not the craziest price in the world, but definitely a lower one. And if you're trying to get in the door, 60s Pele seemingly is pretty sought after, and this is one that you don't see all too often and fairly good looking, I would say. You have a 77 Futbito Cruyff here and a PSA 7. Haven't seen one of those go before, but pop 1 of 1, none higher, goes for 150. We have a Cesar here that goes for 150 and a PSA 1, which seems like a pretty good price. I'm not too familiar, but again, just going off Zara, which we've seen a lot of in these auctions. His similar card / sticker, whatever this is, I think it's a sticker. But this has gone for, again, like 150, 250 most of the time, so this is pretty similar pricing. Then we have this 1902 Billy Meredith here that goes for 150, and from what I'm seeing, it seems like they've dropped a decent bit. In 2022, this one on eBay did, 300 and a PSA 1, so 150 for a 2 is a pretty good discount, I would say. Above those, we have a Lewandowski Color Blast in a PSA 9 that goes for 168. This Titularis Garincha from 58 and a PSA 3 goes for 170. As a Garincha guy, this was a decent, relatively low price, but it depends how you look at it, because if you look at the back, it's a 1 or 2 at best. But it's graded a 3, so it depends how you want to pay for it. Price makes sense considering it's probably not a 3, but it is graded a 3. So then we have a Vinny on-card auto from 2018 Donruss. Of course, this is in-person, aftermarket, all that good stuff. We have a 25 team sticker from Independiente and a PSA 3 from the Dolar set going for 174. This was the Zara I was referencing earlier, a 1942 FHER photo here, and a PSA Authentic Alter that goes for 198. Really stunning picture there, I will say. Treble Mbappe goes for 204 in the base variation. We have a 2022 sticker auto of Edwin Van der Sar that goes for 210 in a BGS 95. We've seen these Messis a good bit. This PSA 10 goes for 210, which, seemingly is lower. I didn't check the comps, but I remember these at 300 to 400 typically. Mazzola from 46 goes for 210 in a 1.5 grade. I tried looking him up. I had nothing on this guy here on the far left, so if anyone has any info, let me know. Hyungmin Sun Red from 2018 out of 149 goes for 216. Feels like a pretty good price, I would say. I mean, obviously it's a 10, but it is a red out of 149. Got the color match going, which, I'll give it some on that, but 216 for what is a secondary star, at best. Pretty impressive. Beyond that, we have a Philip Lahm at 222, pop 1 of 9. We've seen a fair few of these go lately. I think there was 4 or 5 graded in one go, so they're sort of finding their way to market. 222 again, decent price for Philip Lahm. Of course, PSA 10 is going to pull that in. 65 Record Journal hand cut PSA 6 goes for 222. Just knowing what I know about Record feels like a good price for 60s Pele hand cut magazine, but then we have a Bascioli Pele from 1970 and a PSA 3 that goes for 228. This is sort of the torn apart version. You got a 2016 BGS 8.5 Kylian Mbappe, goes for 234. Feels like a decent price if you're trying to get an Mbappe. BGS, I guess you're sort of taking a risk there, but operate as you may. Looking at it though, I think this had all 9.5 subgrades and the centering was like an 8, and the centering doesn't seem that egregious from here. So, I mean, maybe a good crack and resub candidate to PSA if you're into that type of stuff. We have a Thuram from 92 and a PSA 9 going for 240. Pele Calciatore PSA 4 with a Velita back for 240 up here. We also have the 35 Marathi Uruguayan team with Jose Nasasi and friends and a PSA 7 that goes for 240. Pop 1 of 1-3 higher. This 41 Hispano Americano, so this is the same one that we saw earlier of the Cesar, or at least the same set. Also has the Zara that we've been talking about, but pop 1 of 1, none higher, goes for 252. I haven't seen a PSA 3, so this is a really good grade, at least from what I remember of these. Did some digging. He was, I believe, an all-time Valencia legend. He's like 11th in La Liga goals scored ever, so pretty impressive there, and it has the rookie designation, which I'm just going to assume is correct, but you never know. Then we have a 2009 Romelu Lukaku PSA 9 that goes for 264. Didn't take a peek at comps, but I did look at this prior, and it seemed like a decent price. They hadn't sold in a bit, and, I was wondering if it was going to go really cheap. It didn't, but 264 for pop 1 of 4, 6 higher, not too shabby. Lukaku's a name that I don't hear much anymore in the hobby, but seemingly still a pretty good price. I know that these Belgian foots are pretty rare, but they are still stickers, and, people see stickers in a weird way. I guess for comparison, up here you have a Lukaku PSA 9 for 264, or you have the Lahm PSA 10, or the Mbappe. I mean, good company, I would say. But we have a 65 Bergman Beckenbauer and a 2 that goes for 264. I took a peek at this, and I guess we should go ahead and do it now, because there's going to be another one later that's going to be in question, and this is what it's all about. So, this one, obviously the centering on the front's not the greatest when you look here. I mean, kind of diamondy and off to the top left, but generally looks really good. The only thing wrong with it is sort of some removal, I would imagine. I think that's why I got a 2. On the back, I mean, I had to really sort of get close, but there's certain spots down here in this text where you can kind of see some stuff happening. But looking around here, I mean, this one's really hard to sort of tell any removal. Maybe you can find it on the non-text areas better. But, I mean, there's some text that I can look at here and see it's kind of light. But generally, I thought that this was a really nice looking 2. And it goes for 264, which I think sort of accounts for that. As we'll go higher, we'll see a 5 later that did about double this price. And usually you would expect much more from it, and we'll look at the back of that one. We have a 2007 Panini Super Football Mexico Lionel Messi PSA 9 for 276. This isn't a sticker I've seen all too often, but a PSA 9 Messi Panini sticker from, mid-2000s, getting $300. Decent price. I thought this was also a decent price. This Barca Xavi PSA 8 goes for 276, pop 1 of 8, 2 higher. Super high grade, I get that. I guess my only, sort of quarrel with it would be, at least from what I know, I'm not too into the weeds, but just from what this looks like, I'm pretty sure this is a Barca team set, essentially. So it's sort of like the 2000, pardon the phone, but it's sort of like the 2004 equivalent of the Messi team set Mega Cracks that, gets a significant discount because it's a team set and not a league release. So, I don't think we see that here because I don't think people care enough or too in depth on it, but to me, I don't look at this the same way I look at, like, say, a Mundi Chromo and Este, the other more niche but rarer ones as well. But I think that this is a really good price. I mean, almost 300 on what is, in my opinion, a secondary Xavi, but teach their own, and if you collect Xavi, there's only 8 of them and it pop 2 higher, so what are you going to do? 78 crack Maradona Authentic Altered. This one goes for 276. I mean, it looks really short to me. I don't know why people would be altering something that's going to grade a 1 if you look at the back, clearly removed. But, this gets a decent price. The back doesn't look bad, and I wonder if you can get some of that paper off. The front is definitely, short on the left, don't get me wrong. But I've seen these where they're graded and they're short sometimes, but I'll trust SGC on that. Decent price considering I've seen some ones lately go for, 300, and those have been okay prices, at least, at times. They seem to have found a floor around there, so an Authentic Alter doing nearly the same price as a 1 is pretty decent. Looter Sport 61 Pele goes for 276 there and a 1. Above that, we have a 35 Marazzi Miazza, PSA 7, Miazza and Friends, of course, goes for 276. Luka Modric sticker auto in a 10 goes for nearly 300. This Burnabout in a 2 goes for 288. We've seen these sell again for last couple months. I think that this was a rerun because I'm pretty sure we've seen the 2 before and it sort of worked its way up. But this is the lowest selling out of all of them, which I think makes sense at this point because some 3s have gone for, 300-400. So in this row, I did manage to take something home, so that'll be fun. But 2022 Panini Instant Messi, this was the one I was talking about earlier where I don't know why this did $300. The only thing I could guess is that it has the numbering in it, but I don't know who saw a numbered card out of 22,000 and thought I need to have this. I would guess Shield, but I've seen these Shield on eBay, so, seemingly it didn't work because the other one in the auction went for like 130. So 2006 Messi SGC 9 goes for 300. We saw 10 of these go recently, I think for like 2,000-ish, so you can get an SGC 9. Drop a grade for 7th the price, not too shabby. Then my one win of the auction, I did end up taking home this 63 Eusebio yellow name. Pretty excited about this, PSA 1. I've been wanting a 63 Eusebio for quite a while. To me, it's a pretty iconic vintage sticker. He also has earlier stuff from 61, 62, but there's so much different stuff, and it's so expensive that I don't want to go after that, so I figured a rarer 63 Panini Calciatore would be a fun one. There's 4 different versions. There's blue and yellow, and then they both have Velita backs or blank backs. So this is the blank back. The Velitas are rarer. There's like 150 graded blues and 25 graded yellows. So I thought the yellow was the way to go and managed to snag that for 300. I'm pretty excited about it. It does have some paper loss on the front, but the back's really clean, so, it's a 1. You can't win them all. Above that, 2014 Cristiano Ronaldo Aerial Assault Red goes for 324. Took a peek at this because I was interested. We don't see them too often. Was really surprised that a PSA 9 recently on eBay did $71, which I think that this was a steal because then I went and looked at like blues and stuff like that, and blues typically sell for more than this. So I think that was a really low price. If we look back further, 170 on this one. 630 on this PSA 10. So compared to other prices, that sort of makes sense. When you think of the base card, I think the base in a PSA 8 recently, the red did like 1,000. So it's a decent discount, which it should be, but I think that this is a really nice looking one. I mean, Ronaldo's one of the guys where, of course, the aerial attacks are always sort of what you think of here, and going up for a header here, I mean, it just looks really, really good. Then we have a 63 Velita Blue Eusebio that goes for 372. This made me feel a little bit better about my purchase, like I was in the right ballpark when I was going for that. The Velita Blues are a pop 70-some, and I believe that this is around the middle of that range. Goes for 372. I took a peek at this just because there was a decent amount of comps, and you can kind of tell what's going on. So the last 2 sales, 470 and 440. So a decent drop from there. If you go even earlier, I mean, this has been quite a bit more pricey back in the day. If we go all the way back, though, back to 2017 here at the bottom, you can't see it, so I'll drag it up. But 2017, 393. Now I look back, and that was a really high sale comparatively to other Eusebios back in the day, so it's a bit of an outlier. But this actually sold for less than the Eusebio back in the day, which is pretty interesting from that regard. We have an 82 PSA 8 Messi that goes for 384. We start sort of getting into the high-end Prism World Cups that we'll be seeing throughout this. I think there's 5 or 10 other ones scattered. This is a Coutinho out of 5 gold power that goes for 400 and a PSA 9. seemingly a decent price. We saw some other ones last week go for, cheaper prices, but they were probably lesser players for the most part. I thought that this was a decent price for what is a sticker auto PSG kit Neymar, $420 there. This 1960 Mirage Sprint Pele PSA 2 sold for $430. I did try to take a look at that, but it was just hard to find. I think the same one comped in the past for, maybe like $800, something like that. So decent bit down. I think it's a nice looking one though. Really good picture. Pele, the background. In this row, we have a 2004 PSA 7 Messi Campeão that goes for $444. Seemingly a pretty good price. There was times where we would see PSA 8s do, around the same price as this, so that's not too shabby. 2018 Di Maria Gold goes for $456 and a PSA 9. Pop 1 of 1, just too higher. Decent price, though. Probably would be my choice in this row. Next, we have a 2001 Ibra EA Sport PSA 9 that goes for $456. Here, this, in the past, there have definitely been other sales around $1,000, maybe a little bit lower at times. The PSA 10 did at one point sell for about $1,000 as well. So compared to the 10, this is a decent price. Compared to some of the other 9s, it's not so much, but a relatively low entry point, at least compared to other ones that we've seen. Moving on up, we have a 58 Bremer team photo with Pele here and a PSA 4 going for $456. We have a 33 Monty and a PSA 2 that goes for $468. Presumably a hard Monty to find, I would guess, because we saw a 26 Monty last week go for about half the price, and I thought it was in a relatively similar grade. That was a caricature. This is more of the portrait that you would come to expect, but $468 here seems like a decent price. 65 Franz Beckenbauer PSA 5, so this is what I was referencing earlier with the PSA 2 that sold for a little over $250, I think it was. This 5, also off-center, more so left to right, not as much top to bottom, but when you go look at the back, at least here, there's much more evidence to me that this was removed, right? I can see that 5 right there, I can see in the N, I can see in the 6. There's clearly some paper loss. Not a ton, don't get me wrong, but PSA grading standards on this is just tricky, because I'm pretty sure the other one got a 2 solely because it was removed, because other than that, it didn't look that bad. Meanwhile, this one, gets a 5, and I don't think it was deducted for being removed at all. I mean, the corners are still a little roughed up here. It's fairly off-center, so what would this get if it wasn't removed, or at least if you weren't assuming it was removed? Probably around this grade, so I don't think that it's even accounted for, and I don't know why that is. I don't know if they just don't care as much, or they just don't have the manpower or will or desire to look that deep into all this, but yeah, it's, the endless, confusing nature of these Bergmans and actually many other soccer stickers. It's starting to be pretty pervasive everywhere with things that have backs that can be removed. If you can remove them well, sometimes PSA doesn't account for them being removed, but then other times they over-account. Like earlier, we saw that too. I couldn't really see on the back where it was removed, yet it gets a 2. I don't know. It's just, it's frustrating. That's the way I'll put it. But this 50 Flamingo Miguez SGC 1 goes for $480. I took a peek at this, and yeah, I mean, seems like a good price. Again, I'm not too familiar with these backs, so let me know. Maybe there's something here, but I can't even go look at the other backs. So the only 2 comps we have to go off of is 94 and 660, and this one goes for $480. So seemingly a pretty decent price depending on what comps you go off of, but definitely in the range. Here we also have, I guess we'll just talk about it now since I have it pulled up, but a 2004 Pacquiao Cristiano Ronaldo in a 9 goes for $500. I looked this one up because we saw one recently. It was the 10 that did, I think it was like 4 or 5 cameos, something crazy. Yeah, what did the 10 do? Let's just give it a peek real quick. The 10 did, 5,700. This 9 does a little under 500. Which to me is, man, I mean, that's a lot, Those sales were at least somewhat concerning at the time just because they were so expensive and you kind of wonder. But like a Pop 1, I know it's a Pop 1, but getting a 10x premium, what if that becomes a Pop 2, It's just a little concerning, which is that this card went for $492, and that's definitely down from where this has been, especially during the boom. But if we go to the first ones to sell, back in 2017, a PSA 9 actually went for $338. Now, I guess in 2020, it then went for $180, and that's not a good sign. But that was really surprising that it went for $338 back in the day, giving you an idea of what might happen, because I'm assuming back in the day, the PSA 9 was surely the highest graded and might have gotten a premium on that, and then, 3 years later, it's half the price. So just food for thought. We got a Messi Color Blast in between. Found that just interesting because we had the Lewandowski earlier. I know it was an earlier year. He probably doesn't have as many, but the Lewandowski went for like 200. Messi for 5. I'd take the Messi. But then you have the Cristiano Ronaldo. This is a PSA 10, not a 9, but it is Juve kit, so make it that way you will. A Jude Bellingham 2023 auto, then a 1970 PSA 6 Panini Mexico Pele. Want to take a peek at this just to see what they're doing. And this one goes for $516. Last couple were $900, $440, $540. So in terms of pricing this year, they seem to be relatively stable. If we do go back, though, in terms of 2022 and 2023 pricing, these were a good bit higher, depending on which ones you want to look at. So, yeah, I mean, $720 over here. If we go back, end of 2022, $810. So down a decent bit, but again, you sort of expect that with vintage. It's been sort of trailing behind a lot of other things, so maybe it's hitting its bottom now. We'll still have to find out, of course. Lamine Yamal, Topps Auto. I am Jose Mourinho out of 25, goes for $528. We'll talk about it. Next to, we have a 2018 Purple Velocity Vinny out of 125 PSA 10 that goes for $564. And then you have a Pulisic 2017 here. So this is a tough row for me to talk about because I'm going to, if I wanted to talk about this, I'm going to talk about how this Vinny compares to the Lamine Yamal and how I take the Vinny every single day of the week. But then, people could probably say, well, I'd take the Vinny over the Pulisic, and hey, you might be right. I don't have a Pulisic Kaboom. I'd probably agree with you. I'm not a Kaboom guy. Put the Pulisic aside. Let's not talk about it. Just the Lamine Yamal, all right? Because this isn't a rookie. This isn't the same thing. These two are rookies, right? Lamine Yamal, Vinny, both rookies, both La Liga, both wingers. I mean, it's a very interesting comparison. Vinny, of course, being the former and is now a Ballon d'Or candidate, potentially winner. And this goes for $564, a little bit higher. Now, I know a lot of people would probably say the Lamine Yamal's out of 25. It's an auto. Of course, it's going to be higher price than it should be. But think about this. I mean, when we talk about Vinny, at least as far as I am understanding, he only has optic and treble. That's basically it. So how many parallels does he have? Under 1,000? Under 1,000 parallels for Vinny rookies altogether, right? What are you looking at with Lamine Yamal? How many autographs do you think he is going to have in this rookie year? Thousands? Tens of thousands? I'm not sure. I would imagine definitely thousands. I'm not too in touch, but let's say 1,000. Okay, now how many numbered cards is he going to have? I'd lean closer to tens of thousands. At least, I mean, if you combine both of them, we're in the tens of thousands. When you combine autos, numbered cards, all that good stuff, Lamine Yamal is going to be, 10, 20 times what Vinny is, more than likely. I haven't done the math on it. It'd be really hard to do, which is what they want. But point being that this Vinny actually has some sort of meaning. Like, I can almost bank that the Vinny is going to mean something if Vinny is a notable player, right? This Lamine Yamal, even if Lamine Yamal becomes a noteworthy player, is this a meaningful card? And I don't think a lot of people in soccer ask that question because they've never really had to. And a lot of people, including myself, we haven't been around long enough to ask those sorts of questions. But as a person that's in touch with the American card market, I mean, I know that there's tons of LeBron rookie cards that are practically worthless. And no one talks about them because they were just printed to the moon. There's too many of them. They knew that he was a great prospect. And so people have picked certain ones that have meaning. But there's a lot that are practically worthless because there's too many cards for how many people want them. And I wonder if we're going to hit that, or if we have hit that with some of these modern players like Lamine Yamal. All that to say, give me the Vinny. But moving on up, we have a 58 Pele Garrincha record here that goes for $564. It's about what they're doing. The Alifa Garrincha sort of surprised me. I'm sort of just stuck on this eBay sale. There was a PSA 7 that went for near about $700 at some point or another earlier this year. And so, a 3 going for almost $600 seems really high. It does have the eye appeal sticker. I'm sure that plays a factor, but yeah, pretty good price there. This David Piola from 34, this goes for $576. It had sold prior on PWCC, maybe a year ago or so. We saw a lot of these Davids go for different players, and I think it sold for $400 then, so a decent bump on that one. In this row, again, interesting thought experiment. What would you pick? Blue Laser Messi and Orange Messi, both PSA 9, or the Mane out of 5. So, I mean, the Mane out of 5 obviously sort of catches the eye being gold power. Of course, then you have the Messis, and the question between the Messis is, would you rather have an out of 125 that's sort of a color match, or an out of 65 that totally clashes? I'd probably take the out of 125. Mane's interesting because it's a player, again, I don't really hear too much talk about, but definitely a meaningful card. And pretty fun row at that. Continuing the fun on upwards, we have a Marcelo Gold 2014 out of 10 that goes for $870. The Brazil players from 2014 Prism always sort of makes me laugh. Just thinking about it, like if I was a Brazilian collector, I probably wouldn't want anything to do with it, but then you're stuck with it's the first year Prism. It's sort of a notable set. It's just a gift and a curse, I guess. But that goes for $870. I did take a peek at that, I do believe. Yeah, the same exact card sold for the same exact price in the same exact month a year ago. So $870 then, $870 now. Not too much has changed. There also was a sale, I think, back in 2014 for about $100. So, you know, decent increase on that one. 2014 Messi BGS 9. This is the yellow-red matchups. Goes for $960. There will be a PSA 10. We'll see as well later. This Lamine Yamal tie-dye field level goes for nearly $1,000. I do like the tie-dye field levels just generally, so, you know, this one could suck me in. But $1,000, you know, definitely priced in. Lamine Yamal is probably going to be pretty good, I would say. So, you know, a good price there considering the row. You can get a gold 2014 Prism, get a matchups Ronaldo Messi or Lamine Yamal. Take your pick. Then up here, my word, what a row. These seemingly did pretty good prices again. You know, there was the Matuidi last week. I know Matuidi's not a player like these guys, but he won the World Cup in that year. I thought that gave some sort of premium on them, but these are 10s, which, you know, make of it what you will. But a Kimmich and a Lukaku go for the same price, and then in the same row, just a little bit higher, we have a Neymar 2022 gold out of 10. Me personally, I'd take the Neymar. I know it's 2022, but you know, gold and gold power, fairly similar to me. Neymar versus these guys, I'll take Neymar every single day of the week. Now, it is PSA 9, so I guess that matters, but does it, though? Does it? When we're talking about these types of cards, doesn't matter that much. I'd take the Neymar, but pretty good prices all around, I would say. I would definitely, I think I would take all three in the lower row before the 2018 Rashford. Another thing that sort of shows me that this is a pretty high price is that there's a Kane coming up that did a little bit more, of course, but not too crazy of a multiplier, I guess. PSA 10 NBA Gold Cristiano Ronaldo goes for $1,300. We have a Mbappe out of 149 red that goes for $1,500. I did take a peek at that, and basically last prices, depending on how you want to take it, could be down, could be up. Apparently there was a best offer for $2,400. Don't know how true that is. And then apparently, well, this is probably true, there was an auction for $1,970. So seemingly a pretty good price. Now this is, I believe, yeah, a true gem, so it's a little bit better than the subgrades we were seeing on the other ones, but make of it what you will. $1,500 seems fair, if not good. This this foil fractor layout, I don't know what's going on here. I pulled this up. We saw it sell twice earlier this year, so it got rerun. First time $1,100, then $630, and then this time $1,900. I don't think Leao's done anything all that noteworthy in this time, so I don't know why it would 3x, and I don't know why it's come to auction 3 times in a year, but just one that, you know, I don't want to really talk about. Again, the Color Wheel Messi, I probably won't talk about that either. I don't know, I just these Obsidian-looking cards, the Color Blast cards, they don't really do it for me. I don't know if you have these in hand, maybe they look really, really good, but just looking at this on a PWCC scan doesn't do a whole lot for me. I know they're low pop, I know they're case-it, all that good stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe other people love it. Maybe it's really good in hand. I don't know. PSA 2 Aquarella 58 goes for $2,000 with the eye appeal sticker, which is about where they've been. They've been dipping a little bit, I would say, as of late, but the eye appeal sticker keeps it at $2K. Then with the PSA 10 that went for $2,100. First impression was it's, you know, a decent price comparatively to the BGS 9 that did half the price. I mean, you know, there are times where BGS 9.5s do half the price of PSA 10. So a little birdie in my DMs, aka the buyer of this, did mention that there's only, I think, like 40 graded color PSA 10s of any of the matchups, which is kind of interesting in the sense that 2014 Prism just generally is really hard to grade, so I can get that. And, you know, seemingly on the multiple from the BGS 9, not a bad price there. 62 Saravan Pele. This one's an interesting one. I've never seen this one before, and it goes for $3K. It is obviously not a rookie Pele, more like 4th, 5th year, but pretty cool looking one there with the horizontal. You get the headshot as well with the pretty nice looking background. I like the Saravans in general. You also have the Brazil pop-outs with the heads going on. Those are much more common, but this one also, you know, really nice looking and gets a really nice looking price as well. And then here's the Harry Kane out of 5 gold power I was referencing in regard to the Rashford earlier. Goes for $3,600, which when I looked at like Harry Kane gold prisms in general, you know, this was a nice multiplier. I think gold prisms in general for Harry Kane were anywhere, like in 2020, they were $100, $200. You could get a 2018 gold for $100 or $200. Nowadays, it's closer to $1,000, but this at 3.6 is a really strong price. Pop 1 of 1, none higher, but that's BGS grade, so take that for what it is. And then we get into the top 3. So this week, 2 Peles and then 2 modern goats. So to start with Pele, we have a PSA 4 EDI, goes for $3,800. One of the best looking Peles in my opinion. The EDI, just a stunner. Got the chain, got the yellow background, absolute beauty. But looking at past prices, yeah, I actually went and looked at the Sarvon, couldn't find any comps, so it is what it is. But yeah, we've only had one PSA 4 EDI sell before. That was earlier this year on Golden, and it sold for $4,400. So it dropped a little bit from there, which, I guess can be sort of explained by having two of the highest graded EDIs sell within, 5 or 6 months of each other. There were higher prices back in the day, I guess. Here you look at a 4.5 with an IPL sticker, $5,600. That was actually this year. And a 3 back during the boom for $58. So down a good bit, but at the same time, a 3 for $58 during the boom or a 4 at $38 now. I mean, I know it's a big difference, but it's like half off, which sort of makes sense. Then this one seemed like a strong price. Now, again, does have the IPL sticker. I forgot that this one does as well. But this Titularis 58 goes for $7,200. And looking at that price, basically, we'll see that the last one did $56. So just on that, that's like a 30% gain. Some of the other ones that we saw recent, there was a PSA 1 for $43. So that makes it look, relatively noteworthy. I will say that this is the second most rare. There's 3 of them, so it's sort of the middle child. This is the most common with the star and the signature. The plain signature is the second most rare, and then the most rare of all of them is this authentic with no signature or no star. So yeah, a PSA 2 here, if we compare backwards, seems like a pretty good price, especially, there was a time, last year where these were getting into the 2 to 1K, depending on what sort of copy you were looking at. There's a 1.5 here for $2,400. That was December 2022 World Cup. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a little stained, looked kind of bad, but from a PSA 1.5 during the World Cup doing $2,400 to a 2 doing $7,200, not too shabby. And then finally, a red Messi Ronaldo out of 149 PSA 10 matchups goes for $9K, which is a pretty solid price. Now again, the PSA 10's not easy to get. Pop 1 of 6 goes for a hefty price here. The red and blue always seem like a fun pairing to maybe put together because you can have the color match for each player, but if we look at the pricing, there have been a few to sell. Last one was $9,300 back during the 2022 World Cup. So interesting to see, it's been stable since then. I think a lot of other ones for this have not. I think they've dropped a little bit over the last year or two. This one has stayed the course. $9,600 before that in October. In May of 2022, $19,000. And then the bottom one, 2016, $68. So if you're ever worried that the card's going down and, soccer cards are worthless now, just think back, And that's a crazy price to see. And, I reference this with other cards, sort of the pre-boom pricing to the pricing that we have nowadays. And you have to think to yourself, does it make sense? And, with certain cards, certain sets, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But like a 2014 World Cup Prism, this makes sense. I can see why it went up a lot. Now, could I say that this might be too much? It still might be. I think that that's a rational take to have. But at the same time, I do believe that, 2014 Prism has become one of these sets, whether we want it to be or not, no matter, who it is. I think that collectively, Prism has built enough of a brand since 2016 throughout sports cards. Sports cards have gained so many more users, especially soccer. It's just, boomed exponentially in terms of the people here. And so when a lot of people want 2014 Prism, there's a lot more people. Messi and Ronaldo are obviously the guys. It's a PSA 10, which everyone loves. The color match. It has so many things going for it that I can see why it's done this. Does this comp still scare me a lot? Yes. It really does. But at the same time, from what I can tell, there's a lot of people that want to buy at these prices because they seem to keep up. So make of it what you will. I thought that was a really fun one to look at for the historic pricing and just to see where it's at now because you don't see it all too often. So all in all, really fun week. A lot of high end, some gold powers, regular golds. Goats throughout, so I thought it was a fun one. Did a little pre-scroll through this to go ahead and unheart things so you guys can't bid me up on certain stuff, but seemingly a lighter week next week, which you probably need after the week we just had. So starting off with the Chrome Mbappe Green, PSA 10. We have a PSA 9 Messi Essay, pretty big hitter there. A BGS 7.5 CR7. A Pele from 59 that I haven't seen too often. Tops and out Erling Haaland. Another purple Mbappe. Sticker Ronaldo. Titularis Pele in a 4. Got a gold Endrick also. And yeah, scrolling through the rest, this is where it kind of, drops off, I feel. Some nice Ronaldos. This is, I'll check this out for you guys. Hopefully I do a service for someone. Yeah, this one is in the 13 million range and looks faded as could be. So bad sticker there. Stay away from that. Don't bid anything on it unless you like fake stickers, in which case, have yourself a day. But yeah, going throughout, we have another Bernabeu there, but not really too much crazy beyond that. So Looking forward to next week. Hopefully you are too. With that said, though, that's going to be it for me. So if you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. Anything you snagged, maybe something you thought sold high or low, let me know in a comment down below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.